breaking news into CBS Sports HQ, Caitlin Clark took to social media to announce that her season is over.
Let's find out what the rest of the WNBA is going to do in terms of popularity. You've been saying up and down that, whether tacitly or directly, that, what, she's getting too much shine.
Caitlin Clark, the name that has redefined women's basketball, the rookie who shattered attendance records, sold out arenas coast to coast, and turned the Indiana Fever into must-see television. But now, she's sitting on the sideline. And not just for a few games, not just for a playoff push. Clark is officially out for the rest of the 2025 WNBA season.
When you talk about some of the biggest fumbles in the history of sport, what transpired this year in the WNBA and with Caitlin Clark is the biggest fumble in the history of sports.
And here's the gut punch. This isn't just about one player's injury. This is about timing. This is about uncertainty, because Clark's devastating groin injury doesn't only threaten the Fever's playoff dreams, it collides head-on with the most critical moment in modern WNBA history, the looming expiration of the collective bargaining agreement on October 31st, 2025. Think about that. The biggest star in the league is sidelined. The Fever's playoff hopes are hanging by a thread, and the entire WNBA is staring down the barrel of a potential lockout. Fans who just discovered this league because of Caitlin Clark are now left asking, what happens next?
This year, this is the most disappointing season I've ever had as a sports fan, because, it's like, hey, Caitlin Clark, year 2. This is going to be amazing. And then she misses 30 of the games. And they keep stringing us along. Maybe she'll come back, maybe she won't. Maybe she'll come back. Oh, she did this, she did that. They kept it all secret.
This is where the story gets emotional, personal, and political. Because Clark's absence isn't just a medical update, it's a symbol of fragility in a league trying to scale to new heights. A symbol of the battles players face not only on the hardwood, but at the negotiating table. And tonight, we're breaking it all down. The injury, the fallout, the players stepping up, and the storm brewing between the WNBA and its stars. But before we dig in, do me one favor. Smash that like button, subscribe to Her Hoops, and drop your thoughts in the comments.
They've kept her hidden from everybody. And so now I feel like I've been ripped off and built. And I've been forced to watch a bunch of angry feminists wave a finger at me, call me the bad guy, those aren't the fans we want.
Does Caitlin Clark's injury change everything for the Fever or everything for the league? Caitlin Clark's sophomore season was supposed to be the coronation. After a Rookie of the Year campaign that smashed ratings and filled arenas, year 2 was meant to be her true takeover, the season where she went from sensation to unstoppable force. Instead, it's become a grind of pain, setbacks, and frustration. Let's rewind. July 15th, that's the day it all came crashing down. Clark went down with a right groin injury against the Seattle Storm, an injury later diagnosed as a bone bruise. At first, fans thought it was just a minor setback, a couple weeks at most, but week after week, her return date kept slipping further away. Rehab was grueling. She posted videos of long gym sessions, endless shooting drills, and exhausting rehab circuits, but the breakthrough never came.
And Caitlin Clark, and I know these Caitlin Clark groupies are gonna hate me for saying it, but this is the other part of this dropping of the bag or fumbling the football. It's like, they can't get Caitlin Clark to quit arguing with the referees. That's what we were treated to this season.
This wasn't her first setback of the season either. Earlier in the year, Clark missed time with a quad strain. She pushed through an ankle bruise during rehab. It was one injury piling on top of another, turning what should have been a breakout sophomore campaign into one of the most injury-plagued seasons we've ever seen for a superstar this young. In just 13 games, Clark averaged 16.5 points and nearly 9 assists, a pace that showed flashes of brilliance, but also highlighted the grind she was playing through. Her three-point shot, once deadly, dipped below 28%. Her legs weren't under her. She wasn't herself. And yet, even at less than 100%, Clark was still the heartbeat of the Indiana Fever.
And they finally get the biggest star in sports, and it's Caitlin Clark. They hate her. They beat her up and brutalize her. But here's what's even worse. Caitlin Clark brings attention to the WNBA. She centers all these WNBA basketball players.
The team went 8-5 with her, but just 13-15 without her. That's the difference of a superstar. That's the weight she carried on her shoulders. Now, with Clark officially ruled out, the Fever faced the storm head-on. The numbers don't lie. With Caitlin Clark on the floor, the Indiana Fever were a different beast. Her playmaking stretched defenses, her vision opened lanes for Aliyah Boston, and her scoring, whether falling or not, drew double teams that freed up shooters like Kelsey Mitchell. Without her, the Fever became predictable. Opposing defenses no longer had to trap at half court. No more 30-foot daggers to fear. No more laser passes threading impossible angles. Suddenly, Indiana had to grind out possessions the old-fashioned way.
And shines a spotlight on them. And you know what? They're all hot garbage. They're all unlikable. Holy cow. This is what bothers me about Caitlin Clark, is I've had to sit through and watch these clowns.
Through isolation, mismatches, and pure hustle. And yet, this team hasn't folded. In fact, they fought harder. Veteran guard Kelsey Mitchell has transformed into the team's offensive engine, dropping a career-high 38 points in one game, reminding everyone that she's been the face of Indiana long before Clark arrived. Meanwhile, Aliyah Boston has continued her steady rise, anchoring the defense and pounding the glass, giving the Fever at least a fighting chance in every matchup. Even the defense, once a glaring weakness, has tightened up. Indiana has climbed from the bottom of the league to middle of the pack in defensive efficiency. That's not an accident. That's survival mode. Still, the margins are razor thin. At 21-20, clinging to the 8th and final playoff spot, Indiana has no room for error. The Sparks are breathing down their necks, holding the tiebreaker. Every possession, every loose ball, every foul matters. Clark's absence hasn't just changed the Fever's offense. It's forced them to rewrite their identity on the fly. But in a league where star power is everything, can resilience alone carry Indiana across the finish line? That's the question hanging in the air as the playoffs draw near. Here's where things get even messier.
That's how much I liked Caitlin Clark and had a hope that she would make the WNBA interesting. Again, I don't hate these women, and I knew what I was in for. I knew that, it was a group of angry lesbians, but damn. Much worse than I thought.
Caitlin Clark's injury doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's colliding with a league already standing on shaky ground. Because while Clark rehabs, the WNBA is staring down its most dangerous deadline in years, the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement on October 31st, 2025. Think about the optics. The league's brightest star, its billion-dollar rookie, its ratings magnet, the face of every marketing campaign, is sidelined right as labor negotiations hit their boiling point. Fans who bought tickets to see Clark may now see empty courts if a lockout drags into 2026. And you better believe the players know the leverage they hold. Behind closed doors, union leaders are already sharpening their demands. Higher salaries, better travel conditions, expanded medical protections. And guess what? Clark's injury just gave them even more ammunition. How can the league justify charter flight debates when its most marketable player is sidelined by a string of nagging injuries, aggravated by a brutal schedule and lack of recovery time? On the other side, owners are nervous. Yes, Clark has made them money, record attendance, record jersey sales, ratings through the roof. But with her season-ending injury, executives are asking, what happens if our golden ticket isn't on the floor? The WNBA's growth strategy has been built around Clark's availability. Suddenly, that's no longer guaranteed. This is where the contradictions surface. The Fever fight tooth and nail to survive without her. The league leans on her name to drive headlines, even as she can't play. And the union circles the wagons, pointing to Clark's situation as proof that structural change is no longer negotiable. It's mandatory. Caitlin Clark isn't just missing the season. She's become the symbol of a league on the edge of transformation or collapse. Caitlin Clark didn't just vanish into silence when her season ended. She spoke, and her words carried weight. On social media, she admitted, disappointed isn't a big enough word. Hours every day in the gym, endless shooting reps, rehab circuits until her body gave out, and still no breakthrough. That's not just frustrating, that's crushing. What fans often forget is that injuries don't just bruise muscles, they bruise confidence. For Clark, whose game relies on rhythm, flow, and limitless range, every tweak in her groin, every hesitation on a first step chips away at the swagger that made her unstoppable in college and mesmerizing as a rookie. Because when Clark returns, she won't just rejoin the Fever, she'll inherit a team that's tougher, sharper, and battle-tested. Let's be real, Caitlin Clark's absence isn't just an Indiana Fever problem, it's a WNBA problem, and it exposes both the promise and the fragility of the league's growth. Clark was the league's headline act. When she played, arenas sold out. When she sat, ratings dipped. The so-called Caitlin Clark effect wasn't hype, it was hard data. Merchandise records shattered. Media coverage skyrocketed. Casual fans tuned in just to see her logo threes and fiery trash talk. Now, the WNBA has to find out whether its surge is built on one star or on a sustainable foundation. That's why her injury dovetails so dangerously with the looming CBA battle. Players across the league are demanding more investment, charter flights, better medical staff, fair revenue sharing, and Clark's situation proves the urgency. If the league can't keep its most bankable star healthy and supported, what does that say for the rest of the roster? On the cultural level, Clark's injury also touches on the double standards women athletes face. When an NBA star like Ja Morant or Anthony Davis goes down, the narrative is about recovery, long-term load management, and billion-dollar insurance protections. When Clark goes down, the conversation shifts to whether the WNBA can afford to provide basics like proper travel or expanded rosters. That gap is glaring, and yet here's the silver lining. Clark's injury has highlighted the depth of the league. Fans who came for Caitlin are now watching Kelsey Mitchell drop 38, or Aliyah Boston bully her way into the paint. It's proof that the WNBA's future isn't just one player, but an ecosystem of talent ready to shine. Still, make no mistake, the league's next chapter hinges on two things: Clark's recovery and the outcome of the CBA fight. One determines the face of the game, the other determines the future of the game. Caitlin Clark's 2025 season has ended. The Indiana Fever's star is sidelined, and the WNBA, already balancing growth and global attention, now faces its toughest questions. Can the league survive if its crown jewel is hurt? Can the Fever make the playoffs without her? And what does all this mean for the players fighting for fair treatment at the bargaining table? Clark's journey this year has been a roller coaster. A sophomore campaign meant to cement her superstar status has instead become a test of patience, resilience, and sheer mental toughness. Every setback, from quad strains to ankle bruises to her season-ending groin injury, has challenged not just her body, but her identity as a player. And yet, even off the floor, her leadership remains undeniable. Cheering from the sidelines, pushing teammates, and sharing her story publicly, Clark has reminded the world that her influence extends far beyond points and assists. For the Fever, the challenge is immediate. The team must adapt, fight, and prove that they are more than a single player. Kelsey Mitchell, Aliyah Boston, and the others have stepped up, but the margins are razor thin. Every game counts. Every possession matters. And for the WNBA, the stakes couldn't be higher. The CBA talks are looming, fans are watching, and the world is asking, can the league evolve fast enough to support its stars, protect its players, and continue its historic growth? Caitlin Clark's injury has made that question impossible to ignore. So here's the reality. The Fever will play, the league will fight, and Clark will fight her way back. But one thing is crystal clear. Nothing in the WNBA is guaranteed, and every twist, every injury, every negotiation could reshape the game as we know it. Don't miss a second of it. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Can the Fever survive without Clark? And will the WNBA come out stronger on the other side?